How is it going, everybody? My name is DeMarco, and the Xbox Developer Direct Showcase this year was absolutely amazing. I think it was genuinely one of the best game showcases that I have seen in a very long time. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point, and we got a wonderful mix of gameplay with actual developer commentary talking about some of the systems in the game that players should be looking forward to, on top of those insights from people you normally don't hear from, which I very much appreciate. The games that were shown off were absolutely stellar. We had exactly what we expected with Obsidian's Avowed, Machine Games, and Indiana Jones, Hellblade 2, and Ara Untold, and there was a nice surprise thrown in there with Visions of Mana. Visions of Mana? Visions of Mana. It's one of those two. No shadow drops this year, but then again, if they did a shadow drop this year, they do a shadow drop last year, kind of stops being shadow drops when you start expecting it, and it does happen every single year. If I had to give one complaint about the show as a whole, I would say that it's the distinct lack of release dates. Now, all of these games are slated to come sometime in 2024, and we were given release windows for most of them, with the exception of Indiana Jones, which was just labeled as 2024. I'd much rather have a general release window than a defined date, because it does provide some wiggle room as to when they want to place these releases. That's totally fine. And after the last couple years, a little bit tired of hearing about delays, so I'll take it, but it would have been a lot more exciting to know exactly when we were getting some of these games. Nonetheless, I'm still excited, and the beautiful part about it was there was a solid variety that I think anybody watching this showcase got something that you were looking forward to. Starting off with Avowed. The showcase opened with Avowed, and we got to see a little bit of what's going on with Obsidian. They highlighted the staple choice and consequence, and one absolute highlight was getting to see proper combat in the game. One thing I also have to say, that key art for Avowed, mwah, beautiful, stupendous, some of the coolest box art I have ever seen for a game. It was absolutely incredible. I also very much appreciated with Avowed that they did spend plenty of time highlighting that they do have the darker elements of the game. That was the major complaint, if you remember, from the teaser trailer versus the gameplay reveal to now. They did try to emphasize, yes, we have all these different biomes, we have all these different environments, they do exist within the game, so go out, find them, explore those areas, has something that you're looking for. Whether or not fans will be won over by this, I don't know. It'll probably still be 50-50, but I was convinced from the start. I'm going to admit my own bias here. I'm looking forward to this game, so be sure to take in some other content creator opinions as well. Visually speaking, it seems as though Avowed has had a massive facelift. It looks absolutely gorgeous, better than what we previously saw, and it ties to the rumors that were shared around where a developer commented about how the game was still in very early development and they were working hard to tweak and improve the visual style. I think they nailed it. To me, it's almost like jumping up from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5. Some of the lighting segments that you saw are absolutely beautiful. The facial animation looks pretty good. They were animated, expressive. I personally liked it. And then the combat has a lot of the features that I'm hoping to see within Elder Scrolls, but it's here. Things like being able to simultaneously cast spells, switching between different pieces of equipment seamlessly. Moments where you're swinging a sword, but then you pull out a series of vines that entangle a specific foe before you go back to shield bashing an opponent with actual melee abilities that have never been featured in Elder Scrolls, really. I do see some people out there who are saying the combat looks a little bit stiff. I will say it's interesting that they have this combat where the weapon swings and then kind of stutters a little bit and judders before they complete it. That obviously is to give off some feeling of impact. Personally, I liked it. I thought it felt good. It looked weighty, looked meaty, and I'm excited to see the potential of what the AI can do. From a systems level, I really appreciated what Avowed is trying to do. Difficulty by introducing different enemy types, for example. We saw that there was an NPC that is casting spells that's healing one of their allies. That changes the course of difficulty versus just beefing all of them up with more health. When enemies start using actual tactics to manipulate the battlefield, combat gets more tactical, more challenging, and as a result, more fun, because it doesn't just feel like you're mindlessly swinging your weapon around to kill whatever is in front of you. One of my big questions is how many enemies can they get on screen? It seemed very clear to me that what we saw was done specifically. They might have even slowed down combat a bit just so they could show off how it works, how it looks, and give a general feel, versus what we'll get in the final game where it's much more intense, a little bit faster paced. And that's all on top of the traditional Obsidian experience. They did give a couple lines in there. While they didn't necessarily show the choice and consequence, they talked about how it's present in the game. And what I can say is it does, even though Tim Kaine is no longer working at Obsidian, it does very closely follow many of his philosophies. For example, they explicitly called out, depending on the choice that you make with helping some of these people who are injured, wondering if one of them might be a murderer, you will see the results of your decision when you get back to the nearby town. A lot of games will often have you make a decision and then that's sort of the end of it. It goes off out of sight, out of mind, but here you actually see the world reflect and change based on your choices, and that's peak Obsidian game design that I'm really looking forward to. Next up was Hellblade 2, and I have to admittedly say I'm a little bit disappointed that there's not more of the combat that's being shown off. They did show some visually unreal, just, it's next level. The visuals in Hellblade 2 are absolutely out of this world. I gushed over it for the entire showcase when it was on screen because it just blows my mind that that is something actually possible. Now, they did highlight that the game is short. They confirmed, I believe it's around 8 hours in length, which for a game like Hellblade really does work. They also mentioned combat changes, but didn't seem to show it off as much as I would have liked to see. But the moments that they did show were visceral, it was gritty, it was real, it was claustrophobic, you were up close and personal in a lot of these situations, and I'm very much looking forward to how it has actually changed in the sequel. Hellblade 2, while they didn't show off the combat side of things, I did really like seeing some of the inside workings. They did spend quite a lot of time with the audio designer, which I appreciated a ton. He was probably one of my favorite people at the presentation. I loved hearing about how they're trying to capture that audio and how they're trying to weave in binaural audio with every aspect of this game. And then it was super cool to see that once again they're working with Paul Fletcher, who's a neuroscientist and psychosis expert at the University of Cambridge. They worked with him on the first game, they're working with him on the second game, and that's part of what made the first game feel so special, was because it did have that added depth to it that very much translated into the real world, and the actors and the developers did speak to it that they wanted to resonate with a little bit of everybody. They wanted it to resonate with everybody a little bit, whether you've dealt with some serious personal trauma in your life before, or you know somebody who might have, or know someone who knows someone. You can relate a little bit better because that element of the game is there, and it's accurate and well represented. And then just the visuals, it's amazing to me that these visuals are actually possible. It's genuinely incredible. It is one of the best looking games of all time. Next up was Visions of Mana. Visions of Mana is a JRPG coming to Xbox for the first time from Square Enix. This one was a surprise, was not previously announced, and while it's not my personal type of game, it did look like something I would actually want to try out. I know that generally speaking, Xbox players have wanted more JRPGs to come to the platform, and this is an exciting reveal that the Xbox is working to make that happen, and I'm hoping that a lot of JRPG fans are excited by this news. As someone who's not heavily involved in that space, although I will try to start dipping my toe into it here and there, I do appreciate that it does contribute to the diverse lineup of games coming to the Xbox platform. For strategy fans out there, Ara History Untold is shaping up to be a very cool looking experience. As a passive Civilization fan, this game has definitely caught my interest, especially for some multiplayer gaming sessions, competitive or cooperative. I'm down for it. It looks like they're taking a lot of the elements that made Civilization successful, which makes sense because many of the devs did come from the Civ team, and they're translating it into something that feels newer and fresher with different mechanics and different visual styles to it as well. For example, the Civilization games always utilized having just one unit that kind of represents a squadron and then they battle. This, you actually see a bit more of a dynamic, a more animated battle for sure. They highlighted the different victory circumstances, they highlighted the evolving world, they even had a tease a little bit of future that you go into, not just stating in history and modern times, but you do get these Gundam looking soldiers. On our stream, we were talking about we need Gundam Gandhi. Please let there be Gundam Gandhi. And there were plenty of historical figures to choose from. I know with Civilization, usually it takes a bit longer for DLC to come out and really flesh out that roster, but here you had a pretty full stack of characters to begin your empire as. And then what's also pretty cool about it is it used synchronized and like dynamic turns where you don't have to necessarily hit the end turn button and then the AI does its thing. It all happens together, which is pretty cool and unique and different, and that sounds like it could be a very interesting feature for this type of game. And then finally they ended on Indiana Jones, which was absolutely stunning. stellar. I'm working immediately after this. I'll be jumping into a video dedicated to Indiana Jones, but the title was everything that I was hoping it would be. It had epic music, it had composers that were trying to emulate that John Williams style, and when we get the full soundtrack, I'm excited to hear that one. Visually speaking, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It has first-person combat, which I know is not going to be to everybody's satisfaction, but that's what Machine Games truly excels at. If you've never played the Wolfenstein games, do yourself a favor and check them out, because not only are they some of the most fun games I've played, but there's some incredible story-driven games, and when you're combining that first-person action with really cinematic storytelling, it truly highlighted in this showcase. There was no better studio than Machine Games to take on that challenge. I'm gonna say it, I think the Wolfenstein games are some of the most underrated games that have come out in recent history, right up there with the Dishonored franchise. It was done dirty on Metacritic. Don't listen to those reviews. I really appreciated when they pulled back the camera to show that third-person perspective, because Indy is such an iconic look, and it's complete with a linear and also semi-open environments that you can go off and explore, some side puzzles and temples to go in and plunder for treasure with iconic traps that you'll have to contend against, all wrapped up with massively cinematic set pieces, whether you're swinging yourself and climbing up a flying blimp or jumping off a plane onto another. Some of the moments in the gameplay highlighted why Machine Games is just the right pick for this job. I was admittedly nervous about the first-person whip mechanics, but it seems like they got that as well. You could see during the gameplay that there's actually locational based hits, and that's pretty cool to me. If you hit them in the arm, they might drop their gun. Hit them in the leg, you'll sweep them off their feet. And it was also iconic to see that they used Harrison Ford's likeness for this game, and Troy Baker. There were moments where you hear Troy Baker, and then there's moments where I hear young Harrison Ford, but they did a great job casting it.
Trust me, it ain't a walk in the park.
Okay then, let's see if you can keep up.
What do you mean if I could keep up?
As for release dates for all these titles, the Ara History Untold is coming this fall. Visions of Mana is coming in the summer. Avowed is coming in fall of 2024. Hellblade is the only one with a concrete release date on May 21st, 2024. And Indiana Jones is sometime this year. As a whole, once again, this was a stellar Xbox conference, and I am so excited to see this year for Xbox and this year for gaming in general, as I am looking forward to every single one of these games. I would give this conference a solid A. Again, the only thing I'm missing are those concrete release dates, but I'll give you a pass because I'd rather see a release window than a delay. I'm fine with that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Did you like the showcase? What game are you most looking forward to? If you could only pick one, which one would you buy? I'd be interested to hear that down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I hope to see all you dudes next time. So long, everybody.